Think you need a big budget to make a big impact? Think again. In this episode of Undumb Marketing, we're exposing the truth about marketing on a budget. What actually works and what's a waste of time? Discover actionable strategies to leverage social media, email marketing, and community building without spending a fortune. If you're tired of being told you need money to grow, this one's for you.
All right, so we're diving into this mountain of marketing info today. It seems like you're ready to, take on the marketing world, but maybe the budget is a little, let's just say, resourceful at the moment.
Yeah, that's a pretty common challenge, actually. But the interesting thing is that sometimes limited resources can lead to some really innovative solutions. So we're going to debunk that myth that you need, tons of money for impactful marketing.
That's what I like to hear. Because one of the sources that you sent over mentioned that a whopping 64% of marketers really rely on word-of-mouth marketing when budgets are tight. It's like that old saying, necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Exactly. Think of it like this. When you have a smaller budget, you're kind of forced to be more strategic, more creative, more resourceful. So you really have to think about how to maximize every dollar and every minute that you have.
Yeah, that makes total sense. But where do we even begin? I'm looking at this stack of sources. And it feels a little overwhelming, to be honest.
Okay, well, let's start by setting the stage a little bit. So these sources all kind of highlight some common struggles or pain points that marketers often face, like limited funding, which we already know, time constraints, targeting the right audience, how to deal with all that competition out there, struggling with content creation, and then, of course, the whole figuring out the ROI.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to all of those.
Yeah.
Especially that ROI mystery. Like, how do you even know what's actually working and what's not?
That's a great question. And that's something that we'll for sure dig into a little bit later. But for now, let's look at something that one of your sources mentioned about Steve Jobs. He said that innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. And that's really the mindset that we need to kind of tap into here.
Okay. I'm feeling inspired. So how do we channel our inner Steve Jobs and start innovating when we're on a budget?
All right, well, let's start with social media. It's obviously a super powerful tool for reaching your target audience without having to spend a ton of money. But instead of just randomly posting on every platform, think about how you can leverage user-generated content.
User-generated content. That sounds interesting. But I'm not sure I totally understand.
Okay, well, it's basically content that's created by your customers or fans, things like reviews, photos, videos, even testimonials. And you can encourage this by running contests or maybe offering some incentives for people to share their experiences with your brand.
Ah, okay. So instead of spending all this money and time ourselves, we're kind of tapping into the creativity of our audience.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation. You're getting authentic content that really resonates with potential customers, and your audience gets a chance to, engage with your brand on a deeper level.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could be super powerful. But let's be real for a second. How do we actually get people to create content for us?
Well, one of the sources you sent suggested trying a contest on Instagram. It's a platform that thrives on visual content, and people just love to share their experiences. So you could ask people to maybe post photos or videos using your product or service, and then tag your brand for a chance to, win a prize or something.
Oh, that's a great idea. It's fun, it's engaging, it gets people talking about your brand. But what if my target audience isn't really on Instagram?
Right. Well, that's where choosing the right platform comes in. Your sources really emphasized how important it is to understand your audience and, figure out where they're spending their time online. Like if your audience is more business-oriented, maybe LinkedIn would be a better fit. Or if they're younger and more visual, TikTok could be the way to go.
So it's not just about being on social media. It's about being really strategic and choosing the platforms that actually align with your audience.
Exactly. And once you've chosen your platform, you need to think about what type of content is actually going to resonate with them. What are their interests? What are their pain points? What kind of content is actually going to provide value and make them want to share it with their friends?
This is really making me rethink my entire social media approach, to be honest. It's not just about, posting random stuff. It's about being really intentional with what I'm putting out there and making sure it connects with my audience on a deeper level.
Exactly. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about another powerful strategy, community building. One of your sources highlighted this as a key element of budget-friendly marketing.
Community building. I always thought that was more of a long-term strategy, not really something that could make an immediate impact.
Well, it can definitely be a long-term play, but it can also lead to some really quick wins. Especially when you're working with a limited budget, it's all about connecting with your audience on a more personal level, and fostering that sense of belonging.
Okay, so how do we actually go about building a community around our brand?
It can be as simple as, like, being active in online forums or groups that are related to your industry or niche. So engage in conversations, answer questions, offer valuable insights, and be a genuine contributor to that community.
So instead of just blasting out marketing messages, we're actually becoming a part of the conversation and building relationships.
Exactly. It's all about establishing yourself as a trusted resource and a valuable member of that community.
This is starting to feel less like marketing and more like just, making friends.
And that's kind of the point. People are much more likely to do business with people that they know, like, and trust.
This is really eye-opening. I'm really starting to see how powerful these budget-friendly strategies can be.
They absolutely can be. Now, before we move on, let's touch on one more important part of community building: email marketing. Now, I know it might seem a bit old school, but it's still an incredibly effective way to connect with your audience.
Email marketing. I thought that was just for sending out, newsletters and promo offers and stuff.
Well, it can be used for that, of course, but it's also a fantastic way to nurture your community, provide valuable content, and just build stronger relationships overall.
Okay. I'm intrigued. So how do we do that without being too, salesy or spammy?
Well, one of your sources recommended offering something valuable in exchange for those email signups, like maybe an ebook, a discount code, or access to some exclusive content.
Ah, I see. So it's about giving something of value before asking for anything in return.
Precisely. You're building trust and establishing yourself as a valuable resource.
I like that. It feels a lot more genuine than just like blasting out generic marketing messages to a random list.
Exactly. And once you actually have people on your email list, you can nurture those relationships by sending regular newsletters, packed with valuable content, industry insights, and, maybe some exclusive offers here and there.
So it's about staying top of mind and building that loyal following.
Precisely. And here's a stat from one of your sources that might surprise you. Email marketing yields an average return of $42 for every $1 spent. That's a pretty incredible ROI, especially when you're working with a tight budget.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm definitely going to have to prioritize email marketing a bit more.
It's a powerful tool, especially when used strategically. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's quickly touch on one more key aspect of email marketing: A/B testing.
A/B testing. I've heard that term before, but I'm not really sure what it means.
Okay, so it's essentially a way to compare two versions of something, like an email subject line or a call to action, and see which one performs better.
Oh, okay. So it's like a marketing experiment where we're testing out different approaches to see what really resonates with our audience.
Exactly. It takes out all the guesswork from email marketing, and it allows you to make data-driven decisions.
That sounds incredibly valuable, especially when you're trying to get the most out of your budget.
It really is, and there are tons of tools out there that make A/B testing super easy, even if you're, not a tech expert.
This is a lot to take in. I feel like I already need to go back and revamp my whole marketing strategy.
That's a great sign. And we've really only just scratched the surface here. There's so much more to uncover in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm ready for more. What other budget-friendly ideas are hidden in this pile of info?
Well, we were talking about A/B testing for email marketing, but, this approach can really apply to almost any marketing effort.
Yeah.
Let's say, for instance, you're running a Facebook ad campaign on a tight budget.
Right, trying to make the most of every dollar.
Exactly. You can create two slightly different versions of that ad. Maybe one has a different image or a different headline, and then you run them both at the same time to see which one actually performs better, like in terms of clicks or conversions.
So it's all about constantly testing and refining. See what really grabs my target audience.
Precisely. It's all about data-driven decisions, right? Now, shifting gears a little bit, one of your sources highlighted the importance of leveraging PR even on a shoestring budget.
PR. I always thought that meant like hiring these fancy PR agencies and sending out press releases that nobody reads.
Yeah, it's a common misconception. PR can be really effective without, breaking the bank. It's about getting your brand featured in the right publications or media outlets, and it doesn't always require a massive budget to do that.
Okay, I'm listening. How do we make PR work for us without spending a ton of money?
Well, one of your sources suggested checking out something called HRRO. It stands for Help a Reporter Out.
HRO, never heard of it.
It's basically a platform that connects journalists with sources for their stories. So journalists will submit queries looking for experts on specific topics, and you can respond if you think you have something relevant to offer.
So we're positioning ourselves as experts and offering valuable insights to these journalists.
Exactly. It's a fantastic way to get your brand mentioned in publications that your target audience is actually reading. And the best part, it's completely free.
That's awesome. It's like free publicity, right? And it builds credibility at the same time.
It does. And even if you don't end up getting featured in every story you pitch, it's still a great way to build relationships with journalists and, stay on their radar.
Okay, HAR is going on my list for sure. What other PR strategies can we use without going broke?
Another source mentioned reaching out to local bloggers or, influencers in your niche, people who cover topics that are relevant to your brand.
So instead of going for the big publications, we're starting smaller, building relationships with people who already have a dedicated following.
Exactly. These micro-influencers, they often have super engaged audiences, and they might be more open to working with smaller brands, especially if you can offer them something valuable in return.
Okay, what kind of value can we offer these influencers?
It could be as simple as giving them a free sample of your product, or maybe offering a guest blogging opportunity on your website.
Ah, got it. It's all about mutual benefit, huh?
Yeah.
Finding those win-win scenarios.
Exactly. Now let's move on to another super important part of marketing: partnerships and collaborations.
Collaborations, yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work, but for marketing.
That's a great way to put it. It's about finding other businesses or brands that share your values and maybe target a similar audience and then, brainstorm ways to work together and cross-promote each other.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we even find these perfect partners?
One of your sources recommended attending industry events or conferences. Even the virtual ones can be valuable.
Networking, building connections, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to reach out to brands that you personally admire, or even businesses in your local community. You never know what kind of opportunities might come up from just a simple conversation.
I'm starting to realize that budget-friendly marketing is a lot about relationships, huh? And finding creative ways to leverage each other's strengths.
Exactly. It's all about community, collaboration, and thinking outside the box.
So what specific collaborations could we explore?
There were a bunch of options in these sources, things like joint giveaways, cross-promotions on social media, guest blogging. You could even co-host webinars or online events together.
I love those ideas. It's like we're combining our resources and our audiences to create something even bigger and better.
Exactly. It's a win-win for everyone involved. Now, let's touch on another aspect of marketing that's often overlooked, but can be super valuable: content marketing.
Content marketing, isn't that all about blog posts and videos, which can be both time-consuming and expensive?
It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Content marketing is about creating valuable content that attracts and engages your target audience. And it can be really effective on a budget if you're smart about it.
Okay, how do we create this high-quality content without spending a fortune?
Well, one of your sources suggested focusing on repurposing content.
Repurposing content, what does that even mean?
Basically, it means taking content that you already have, like a blog post, a video, even a social media update, and transforming it into different formats.
Okay, I need an example.
Sure. Let's say you have a blog post that's performing really well. You could turn that blog post into an infographic, or a series of social media updates, or even a short video.
So we're making the most of what we've already created and stretching our content further.
Exactly. It saves you time and resources, and it allows you to reach different segments of your audience who might prefer different formats.
That's really smart. Working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. And when it comes to content creation, consistency is key.
Okay, so it's better to create a smaller amount of content regularly than to try and do everything at once and just burn ourselves out.
Exactly. Set realistic goals for yourself and focus on delivering valuable content consistently.
Makes sense. Now, before we wrap up this section, I want to go back to something we discussed earlier: the importance of measuring ROI.
Absolutely. You got to track your marketing efforts. You need to see what's actually working and what's not.
But with so many different strategies and platforms, how do we keep track of everything?
Well, your sources recommended using free analytics tools, like Google Analytics, for example.
Google Analytics. Sounds a little intimidating, to be honest.
I know, it can seem that way at first, but it's actually super user-friendly. It gives you a ton of information about your website traffic, things like your audience demographics and user behavior.
So we can see how people are finding our website, what they're interested in, and how they're engaging with our content.
Exactly. It's like having a detective on your marketing team, uncovering all the clues about what's really resonating with your audience.
Okay, I can see how that would be valuable. What other metrics should we be tracking?
Well, that really depends on your specific goals. If you're focusing on building your email list, then you want to track your sign-up rate. If you're running social media campaigns, you're going to want to track your engagement metrics. Things like likes, shares, and comments.
So it's all about aligning our metrics with our goals.
Precisely. And don't be afraid to experiment. Adjust your strategies based on the data that you're seeing.
Wow, this has been so insightful. I feel like I have a much better grasp on how to market effectively without breaking the bank.
That's great to hear. And remember, marketing is an ongoing journey. There's always something new to learn and experiment with.
Okay, I'm ready for the final stretch of our marketing deep dive. I'm feeling pretty equipped to tackle any challenge, armed with a shoestring budget and a whole lot of creativity.
That's the spirit. Remember, limitations often lead to the most innovative solutions, right?
Going through all these sources, it's amazing how many of them really stress that. Budget-friendly marketing isn't just about cutting costs. It's about making genuine connections and providing real value to your audience.
Absolutely. It's about shifting your mindset from broadcasting messages to really focusing on building relationships.
One source actually used the term guerrilla marketing, which sounds kind of intense. Is that where we put on our metaphorical camouflage suits?
Haha. Well, think of it more as strategic surprise attacks, I guess. You're trying to capture attention in unexpected ways. And it's perfect for limited budgets because it relies on creativity and ingenuity rather than big spending.
So what kind of surprise attacks are we talking about here?
Okay, imagine this. You set up a pop-up experience in a busy area, something interactive and eye-catching that'll draw people in. And then people are naturally drawn to it. They start taking pictures, sharing it on social media. Word spreads organically, and boom, you've got all this buzz and engagement without a pricey ad campaign.
I love that. It's about creating those memorable experiences that get people talking.
Exactly. Another source talked about the power of storytelling. Instead of just listing, features and benefits, try to weave narratives, stories that really resonate with your audience. People connect with stories, they remember them, they share them.
That makes sense. Our brains are definitely wired for stories, for sure. But how do we find those compelling stories to tell?
Well, think about your customers, their experiences, their challenges, their triumphs,
Yeah.
Highlight those aha moments when your product or service really made a difference in their lives. Maybe it helped someone launch their dream business or solve a problem they'd been struggling with.
So it's about showcasing the human impact of what we do.
Precisely. Now let's talk about something that, everyone wants to achieve with their marketing. Going viral is like the holy grail, right? But is it even possible when you're on a tight budget?
That's the question, isn't it? It seems like you need a huge ad budget or a celebrity endorsement to really make something go viral.
Well, those things can definitely help, but they're not essential. One of your sources pointed out that virality often happens when you tap into current trends or cultural conversations.
So it's about being relevant and timely, not just, shouting our message into the void and hoping someone hears it.
Exactly. Think about what's capturing people's attention right now. Can you create content that ties into those trends? In a creative and engaging way, of course.
Okay, I see the potential there. But how do we actually make sure our content gets seen and shared?
That's where, those shareable formats come in. Think visually appealing, easily digestible, something optimized for different platforms.
Like infographics, right? Those are great for breaking down complex information. Or maybe those short, catchy videos that autoplay on social media.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of humor. Content that makes people laugh often gets shared like crazy.
Okay, inject more humor is going on my marketing to-do list.
Love it. Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, I just want to emphasize that marketing on a shoestring budget, it's a journey, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Exactly. You got to continuously analyze what's working, what's not, and adjust your strategies based on that.
Be adaptable, resourceful, always learning, right?
Absolutely. And remember, even with limited resources, you can achieve amazing results with some creativity, persistence, and a genuine passion for connecting with your audience.
This deep dive has been incredible, honestly. I'm walking away with a toolkit full of strategies I can actually use, and I feel way more confident about tackling marketing challenges head on. Thank you so much for guiding me through this marketing maze. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure, really. And remember, the most impactful marketing comes from the heart, not the wallet. Now go out there and make some magic happen.
That's a wrap for this episode of Undumb Marketing. If you liked what you heard, don't stop here. Check out our other episodes for more straight takes on today's hottest marketing topics. New episodes dropping weekly, so hit follow and stay ahead of the game. Got a question or topic you want us to tackle? Find us online and let's keep the conversation going. See you next time.